This is Barry McKnight, the voice of the Troy Trojans. You're tuned in to the Phillip Jordan Show podcast.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I am Phillip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Doesn't Football on 96.9 The Legend, and I cover the Auburn Tigers for the Auburn Wire, part of USA Today. And we got a fun show planned for you guys today. Going to be joined by Josh Boutwell of the Troy Messenger, where we will preview the 2025 Troy Trojans football season. And Josh was there at practice on Wednesday as they got that going. Of course, you're hearing this on a Thursday. We'll also continue Birmingham Stallions conversation here on the pod, here on this episode. Me and Josh both are fans. So the last 4 or 5 minutes, we do talk about that a little bit, but 15 solid minutes of Troy Trojan football talk for you here on the show. And actually, this is usually the point where I say, where you can find me, and then we jump into the conversation. So big news dropped on Wednesday about the Troy Trojans in athletics. Now, me and Josh, we did the interview about 12:15 Central Time on Wednesday. This is news that dropped later on. So I know a lot of you may be thinking, see the Troy hat on if you're watching the video, and obviously Josh, who covers Troy for Troy Messenger, you're probably wondering and thinking, well, why didn't they talk about Brent Jones? That just was no mention of it, especially because this pod is coming up to you on a Thursday morning. Well, the Brett Jones news had not happened yet when we had our conversation, so that is why. And if you didn't know, Brett Jones will be leaving Troy to go to Georgia Tech. He will not be the athletic director there, but here is the release that Troy University put out. Brett Jones, who has served as senior vice chancellor and athletics director at Troy University since 2019, has been named associate vice president and executive deputy athletics director at Georgia Tech. It is with mixed emotions that we witness the departure of Brett Jones as athletics director of Troy University. Troy Chancellor Dr. Jack Hawkins Jr. said, I am grateful for the outstanding leadership he has provided our staff and student athletes. His experience has prepared him for the next step in his promising career journey. Brent and his family have become valued members of our community. I am proud of and for him and shall miss him. So Troy will now be looking for a new athletic director. And I just wanted to kind of do a little prelude here on the podcast before we jumped in my conversation with Josh, while we did not discuss that. And just, keep paying attention to the Troy Messenger, Josh, and all the other people that cover Troy, and find out what's going to happen with the search for the new Troy Trojans athletics director. All right, now we're going to jump into a conversation with Josh Boutwell. Like I said, we previewed the 2025 Troy Trojans, and it's a good about 20-minute conversation, and we'll wrap things up after that. Everybody joining me on the show today. Football is really here. The in-state teams, they are practicing. All over college football teams have hit the practice field on Wednesday. And joining me is Josh Boutwell, managing editor, sports editor at the Troy Messenger. Congratulations on the managing editor role. I know you just got that here recently, but Josh, appreciate you coming on. I know you were out there in the scalding heat here in South Alabama, checking out the Troy Trojans earlier today, but I appreciate you coming on and talking to Troy for a few minutes.
It's my pleasure. Anytime.
I had Barry McKnight on the show a few weeks ago, and I kind of asked him this in a way. And I want to start off with you before we actually jump into the 2025 Troy Trojans. From what you saw last year, just what this team went through, what went wrong, in your opinion, with 2024 with the 4-8, 35 season in the first year under Jared Parker?
They played 3 different quarterbacks during the season. I think that's you don't have to look any further than that. I think that was the biggest thing for sure. But I mean, gosh, when you came into the season, it was almost an entirely new roster. After obviously when you lose a coach, that's going to happen for sure. And then also you add in the fact that we the transfer portal and NIL and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, those two factors, the turnover, by not just players, but the new coaching staff as well for the most part. And then, I mean, you lose your quarterback. He got hurt. I can't remember offhand. I think it was game 2. Came back, got hurt again. And then you had, Tucker Kilcrease, who had never thrown a pass in a game in college, was having to play some. And then Matthew Caldwell, who was a walk-on last year, had to play, and is now in Texas. So it was, it was just, it all came together for a perfect storm, I guess, of badness. But, I mean, you look at how they kind of ended the year, it was a completely different team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing, if you're a Troy fan, you kind of hang your hat on.
Yeah, much better down the stretch. Won 3 out of 4 games. And with Goose Crowder, I mean, just shutting him down, and that was kind of top of my list with stuff. What went wrong last year. When you're constantly shuffling quarterbacks, like you said, it's a new roster. Maybe if you had like a lot of your guys from the previous year, you could probably get past that because you've got some other veterans that's been around. But when you're, like you said, a brand new team and your quarterback keeps going down, like with Goose and then Tucker Kilcrease, and honestly, it took Caldwell a little bit to kind of get going, kind of find his footing. And of course, you mentioned he's off to Texas. And then offensive line. I mean, that's another one. I mean, and that's one of my notes. And I know it's been mentioned in some preview magazines and other people. They have a very experienced offensive line because they had to play so many of them last year.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of shuffling. But I think the offensive line can actually end up being the anchor of the offense this year. I mean, I don't think, at least going into that first game, I think there's probably not going to be a question about the starting 5. I mean, there's 2 spots in there. Maybe there's a little competition. But, I mean, for sure, 3 veteran returners. Having a guy like Eli Russ that's able to play center and guard was really big, because I think he's probably as impressive at guard last year as maybe anyone in the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were there. They opened practice today. What you can share, what was some kind of big things for you?
It was hot. I think one of the things that stands out, and we saw it a little bit in the spring too, Goose being back out there. He has a complete command of the offense, and you can see the respect his teammates have for him. He really looks like a starting quarterback. I don't think, I think maybe since I've been here, I don't think there's been a season, even when Summerall was here and you had Gunnar Watson, who's been there for 15 years. There was always kind of the talk of, there's a competition going on in quarterback. Even if you knew there really wasn't, I mean, I think this year, I don't think there's even any trying to hide it. Goose is the guy. As long as he's healthy, he's the guy. And you can see that with the way the players talk about it, the way the coaches talk about it. He's one of the leaders. And he when you talk about quarterbacks a lot of times, especially starting quarterbacks, a lot of times they'll end up kind of regurgitating the things you hear the coaches say. And you see that right now with Goose and this whole one of the things that Jared Parker's been talking about is taking steps to better. And Goose repeats that when you're talking to him. And so I think kind of a reflection of your coach there was what you want with a quarterback. That's probably one of the things that stands out the most. There's also some impressive athletes, for sure. And you're just watching guys in helmets and jerseys and shorts right now. So everyone is like a superstar, I guess you could say sometimes. And that there's definitely some impressive looking athletes out there right now. It'll be interesting to see when the pads come on. Battling the heat, man. It's something else right now. And Troy started this during Summerall when he was here. They actually have a reefer trailer, which my dad was a truck driver, so I don't know what anybody else would call it, but it's a refrigerated trailer where the guys will literally walk through it to try to stay cool at times during practice. And I think that's kind of a cool little innovation that they kept.
Yeah, I always feel for those teams that wear black this time at the beginning of the year down here. I guess 2 Alabama quarterbacks, I got to wear that black jersey up there in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, for sure.
And
the whole quarterbacks wear dark green, so it's not really the same.
Yeah. Still don't help much, which I don't think much does in this heat that we're having right now. And talking about Goose being a starter, it's kind of like, I was thinking about this. I know Auburn has alluded that they have a quarterback competition too. I'm like, okay, when you bring the quarterback to media days, that is your unofficial way of saying he is the starting quarterback. Because if you truly have a competition, you're not bringing any quarterbacks to any media days.
No, for sure. And really, Parker hasn't really even tried to suggest that Goose wasn't the guy, even since back in spring.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that fans maybe should take into account when they talk about last season is in football, a lot of times, especially in the past, see coaches will kind of panic when their quarterback goes out and they just throw him back out there. They shut Goose down.
Yeah.
I'm sure he probably could have been cleared by the end of the year and played in the last few games, but they felt that it was better for his overall health and for the team overall to shut him down completely. And I think years on, as frustrated he may have been in the moment, and I'm sure he was because he's a competitor and wants to be out there. I'm sure years from now, that's something he will look back on and he'll thank the coaches for that.
Yeah, that is a very underrated thing to just say, hey, let's just shut it down and we'll roll with who we got right now. Because right, easily could have panicked and said, okay, let's just put Goose back out there. We got to do something. Again, I know he transferred to Texas, but it helped the development of Caldwell, getting those snaps, getting to play. He even had 1 week where he was Sunbelt Player of the Week. So now the players around Goose. Now, of course, Damian Taylor's no longer there, 1,000-yard running back. But they bring in Georgia Tech transfer Trey Cooley, a guy that rushed over 1,000 yards in his career. Jordan Lovett's coming back. I know some of the players really do love Jordan Lovett at that position. And then that receiver, Peyton Higgins coming back. They brought in a lot of receivers. I think a lot of people may see that Ra Thomas coming from Georgia, Mississippi State. Obviously, he's local, coming from Eufaula too as well. Just how do you kind of grade what Troy's going to have around the quarterback?
Yeah, when I talk about those athletes, that's one of the main things I'm talking about. There's some speed there. There's some great athletes. You mentioned Trey Cooley. He's a guy, like you said, they brought him in from Georgia Tech. This was really his first true time being on the field with the team. Obviously, during OTAs and things like that in the summer, he was here, but he wasn't here for the spring. So that's going to be a big boost. But Jordan Lovett is a guy that's been impressive. He was impressive during the spring. He's a very speedy back. I think we're probably, especially in the first few weeks, we're probably going to see more of a running back by committee type of thing, probably until maybe there's a dominant guy that comes out. But Ra is obvious, and you see him on the field when he's out there. That guy stands out. I think he's going to be someone who's going to make big plays. Trey Taylor is so fast. He's another one of those transfers you were talking about. Higgins has been there for as far back as I can remember. He's a solid, dependable guy. Unfortunately, Christian Tate was another transfer. Had an knee injury during the last couple of weeks of summer workout, so he won't be someone that we saw it during the spring. He stood out as well, but he won't be playing this year more than likely. But Roman Mothershed's a huge receiver. He was another one of those guys. He stands out when you look at him. And then Jawan Boyd is a guy that he's a local kid, and I feel like he's going to be special. Whether it's returning kicks, whether it's just being kind of a Swiss Army knife. We saw him. They moved him around in the spring. Let him play running back and receiver. He's an impressive kid. And then Ethan Connor, I said this after spring, if he stays healthy at tight end, that guy is as athletic and talented as a pass catcher as any tight end in the conference.
Yeah, so, and tight end with Parker, I mean, he likes the tight end, with his history as an assistant coach before Troy. Defense, obviously last year, you knew, I think even if Sumrall was back last year, you knew the defense was going to drop off. This with all the guys that left. But obviously when the coach, a lot of guys left that could have come back, but they got some interesting guys. I know up front, you got Medina and Julian Peterson up front coming back. They at South Carolina, transfer on the edge. Elijah Davis, Jordan Stringer's back. Lafayette's a guy that they took the media day, so you be bringing him with you. That means a lot to the team. And Justin Post, so they have at all levels, they have players coming back. Of course, like anybody in college football, adding players out of the portal, but a lot of guys would experience at all three levels of defense coming back.
For sure, I think that front seven is really probably going to be, I would say, going into the season, is probably the strength of the team. There's some dogs up front for sure, and then I feel like on the inside backer with Jordan Stringer and Stephen Catledge, I think that's maybe one of the most impressive duos at linebacker in the conference. Stringer, he's one of those guys that's an alpha. Luis Medina's an alpha. Those are leaders in that group. And then also Jamel Fields and me, was massive nose tackle. I watched him when he was back at Enterprise. And the secondary is the group where we're going to see a lot of new faces. Justin Poe's back, like you mentioned. Devin Lafayette, I don't know if you want to consider him a DB. Plays a Spears, safety, linebacker, hybrid, but whatever. Jamal Williams at Bandit is a good pass rusher. They've got a lot of Bandits back. They lost Phillip Lee. Obviously, that's a big hit. But I really feel like as far as the front seven go, it's going to be impressive. I think the new faces that we'll see in the secondary is going to be impressive. I think there's probably going to be 2 new starters at corner. There'll obviously be a new starter at safety. But I think as they settle in, those are probably as talented as we've seen in a while, Troy, in the overall defense.
Yeah, and they'll be good on specialists. They got a decent kicker over there at Troy too. At Scott Taylor for yeah. So they got that for him. Looking at the schedule too, with the nickel open up nickels, of course, go to Clemson. Of course, any longtime Troy fan has memories of that where Troy should have beat them. I remember
that fumble triggers people, I'm sure, still.
Yeah, I remember that game, and I remember whatever podcast I was doing at the time. I think I opened with a rant how the referees just well, this is an independent podcast. I can say they screwed Troy over and all that stuff. But you got that. Then you have Memphis, and then you have at Buffalo. I think we're calling what it is. Clemson's going to be one of the favorites, not only to win the ACC, but they're a title contender. You assume, hope Troy plays well. That's probably a loss, but they need. I feel like for this team to open up 3-1. What do you feel about that?
I think that's very doable for sure. I think 2-2 is probably the minimum you want, but I think 3-1 is absolutely doable. And if you go in 3-1 into your conference slate, that's pretty big.
Now I'm going to ask you this. Now, I could tell Barry McKnight was very happy that Troy and South are not playing on a Tuesday night. It is going to be a rare Saturday game between the two there in Troy. So there you go. You go through 3-1. You're off a week, then you play South. So that kind of leads into that. If you can get that 3-1 start, take that momentum into the off week, and then play South.
I have a different view of it than Barry does. And the players do, I'm sure. I love the midweek games because it means I'm going to have a Saturday to myself.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's big. And, you want the South game. I mean, I understand having it midweek. You got kind of the nation's eyes on you because it's going to be one of the only games people see. But, I mean, the fans want a Saturday game because you're going to have more people there. It's going to be hype. It's going to be way more hype being on a Saturday. So I see both sides of it.
Yeah, so but I'll be looking forward. I won't be able to go. I'll be at a wedding that day. Looked out, Auburn is off that day. Of course, team I cover for the Auburn Wire. But look at the rest of the schedule. Texas, you got the Sun Belt schedule, and we're only one game during the week. Only one Thursday night game. That's the one at Old Dominion. Now I was a little bothered with that. I usually do like to go to a Thursday night game, and Troy does not have one at home. When you look at the Detroit schedule, obviously last year 4-8, 3-5, they're picked 6th in the West. But what do you think is reasonable expectations record-wise for Troy?
I mean, for sure, bowl eligible. I think that's the basement where you would want your expectations to be. You want to be challenging for the conference, and I think there's obviously this conference is pretty stacked right now. But I don't think it's out of the realm of question that Troy could be in the running for the West. I think as much as they don't want to talk about that 6th ranking in the West not bothering them, I know they at the very least looked at that and said, okay, we got something to shoot for. Because I asked them about it during media days. All of them just kind of brushed it off. But it doesn't sit well. It's not going to sit well with anybody that's competitive.
Yeah, because I mean, even the ones that are new to Troy, they know the standard, and it is not that. It is It is winning and competing for Sun Belt championships, and that is the standard with Troy. So, real quick before we go, me and you, and I did a podcast on this, 30 minutes on this earlier in the week, talking about this. I didn't think I'd be talking UFL in late July, early August, but when certain news, especially when it involves the Birmingham Stallions, comes up, I have to talk about it. Of course, the reporting last week that the Stallions could be relocated, which if you follow the State of the Stallions social media accounts, the petition going, I think last I saw it was over 2,000. So there is a push in the city. People want the Stallions to stay there. Me and you both are fans of this team. We both been to games I know in the past. Just what are your thoughts on where the Stallions are at?
I put my thoughts out there. I was pretty clear on it. Maybe I reined it back a little bit because I was definitely not happy when I saw it because just the start of you're taking deposits for season tickets and you're going to relocate. That did not sit well with me at all. I love the pushback on it for sure. I don't know that it's going to do any good. But I will say this, that if it does do good and they do stay, at least for another year, got to go to the game, man. Like, I mean, it's clear they're the highest rated market, and it seems like they don't really care as much about that for whatever reason. Go to the games. That's the biggest thing. Go to the games. And as far as the team goes, they have got to market the team as more than just a 30-mile radius of Birmingham, Alabama. It is the only professional football team we have in Alabama. Treat it that way. Birmingham is 3 hours away from almost every corner of the state. That is a doable day trip for every part of the state. Go into the Wiregrass, go into Mobile, go into North Alabama, go into Huntsville. Draw in crowds from people all over, not just worrying about Mountain Brook, Stavy Hills, Birmingham. And obviously, I wish I could cover Birmingham more than I did. I was able to go and be at a few games every year they've been in existence. So I was happy about that. I wanted to be in more, but that's not always possible. But media around the state has got to do a better job. I mean, there's media in that city that has to do a better job. There is media nationwide. Fox. The fact that Fox is part owner and they almost don't promote this thing. They don't talk about it on their shows. ESPN doesn't talk about it. There has to be an effort all the way around for everybody involved. You're going to make it work. Because if you don't, then relocating. I don't understand relocating to Orlando where it already failed before. What that's going to do for you? I don't relocate anywhere. If you don't put any effort in it, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, and I think too, one thing that hurts it is at least the first 2 years when it was the USFL, Birmingham was there. I mean, I know the other teams weren't, in their home cities, but Birmingham was in their city, so you could see the players out and about in Birmingham. I think the fact is that they're all hubbed in Arlington, and then they fly out to their home cities. I think that hurts too, not having really like fans in the city being able to see the players and the coaches out and about there in a week. And you talking about getting all over the state. I think they really should take a page out of Troy's playbook and do like a Stallions tour where they just go to these different cities. Like they do, like Troy's going to come to Dothan. They're going to go to Montgomery, Enterprise. Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, do that too and get around and just kind of put the word out. Because, sometimes I don't think people just really know that the team is there outside of that radius of Birmingham. So there's a lot of things.
The fact that I still to this day see people when there's anything posted about this team go, we have a team in Alabama? That is unfathomable to me, and that is something that you have got to address.
Yeah, so I hope they do. I hope they stay. Man, I hope they stay. But because every time I've been to a game, it's come down to a fourth down stop late in the fourth quarter, and it's been exciting. It's because it's a great product. That's the thing too. It's good football.
It's fun.
But
they got to do something about those concessions in the stadium. I've heard about that.
Yeah, the tickets are affordable. The concessions are a different story. That is a different, 100% different story on that one. They're like the opposite of the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons tickets are expensive, but the concessions are cheap. It's the opposite with the Birmingham Stallions.
That's a protective stadium issue, but
yeah. Oh, anyways, we'll hope for that, and I look forward to see what all is going to go down with the Troy football season. And Josh, been fun having you on talking about all of it. If the viewers and listeners want to check it online, where can they find you?
TroyMessenger.com, and I'm on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, Josh B. Messenger.
Everybody, go follow Josh for all the latest for Troy Trojans, and hopefully we'll have positive things to say about the Birmingham Stallions staying in Birmingham. But anyways, Josh, appreciate the time, and I look forward when we get to do this again.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right. Once again, thanks to Josh Boutwell for coming on the show. As always, always fun talking Troy with Josh there. Again, like I said, the Brett Jones stuff. I said that in the prelude of the interview. He is headed off to Georgia Tech. So anybody catching the YouTube video while it's in premiere and maybe catching me, so why don't you talk about this? That's why. If you're just tuning in here at the end. Real quickly, I didn't get this on Monday / Tuesday show because we went 30 minutes. And we do have a YouTube comment. And I always say reviews and YouTube comments. If you leave me one, I will read it on a future edition. And that is what we are about to do right now. We had a comment from my conversation with the one and only Chris Gordy from Locked On SEC from that one. And the handle is at EMTAE65. I think it's hilarious that everyone thinks they know more about Arch than Arch does. He's got a ton of pressure. You don't know that. Did you ask him? He's never said or admitted any kind of this is going to affect me BS. Let's just play and see how about that. Obviously, we have a Texas fan here commenting on this. Look, it's just simple. It's human emotion. I mean, there is a lot of pressure on Arch, not just because Texas has high expectations of a national championship. Trust me, if this team does not play in the national championship and maybe not even win the national championship, it will be looked as a failure, a disappointment. Maybe not failure, but a disappointment for the team. And then obviously his name, that is pressure. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be overcome by it, but there is pressure. There's expectations placed on him. He's playing for Texas, one of the top favorites to win a national championship. And they've got some things they've got to get past to do that. And also his name, his last name is Manning. If he's not as good as his uncles and his grandfather, there's going to be questions. People are going to be wondering some things. He has a few bad games. Look, any top recruit is going to be under scrutiny when they finally take over as quarterback, but he's going to be under so much more than anybody else. That's why I say I feel like out of any quarterback we've ever seen, particularly in college football, Arch Manning is under more pressure than we have seen. That was my thoughts. So, I mean, I respect your pushback on what was said either by me or Chris in that episode, but still at the same time, you gotta look at it. You gotta pull yourself from the Texas fan side of things. Whoever this person was that left the comment, I don't really think they're subscriber to the channel, but please subscribe. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. I just feel like there's a lot of pressure on Arch. I'm not saying he's going to be, again, repeating myself. I know I'm not saying he's going to be overcome by it, but at the same time, there is pressure there. Also, for you out of here on social media, I posted, and I've done this probably about every year at some point on the calendar, ask this question, but I always love hearing what people have to say. What is your most painful sports memory? Gene McCraney, my Aunt Gene, watching Tyrone Prothro get hurt. That was a tough one. That was way back for the younger people in the audience. That was way back when that happened, but that was a tough one. Richard Holdridge, 28-3. We're talking about Falcons when they lost to the Patriots. Jeremy Raines threw 2 in here, and the Gravedigger, of course, Jalen Milroe beating Auburn. That pains me too, Jeremy. Trust me, it pains me too. He also said, or watching Kelvin Benjamin catch a touchdown in a national championship over our 5-foot defensive backs. I've heard Jeremy and I've seen him mention that more than once, the 5-foot DBs. Yeah, that was a tough one. 13 seconds left in the game. He's thinking Auburn's about to win another national championship after winning one in 2010. Rhett Baxley watching Clemson score a winning touchdown on a pick play to end a undefeated season and national championship. Thinking all about Alabama fans. Tough for that one. Ryan Hoffman, I was kind of surprised with this one. He said Rams versus Titans Super Bowl. Of course, the Titans losing right there at the one. And also had one from my old teammate, Kevin McGuffey from Last Word on College Football. He also put one on there, which was Kentucky related on his. And he said UK losing to Wisconsin in the 2015 Final Four, going 38-1. Yeah, that was a big year for them there in 2015. Karl Anthony Towns, I believe, with that one. Craig McMichael It's a baseball. When I see Red Sox fans cheering in the air, that's all I can tell you on that one. What is he alluding to? Y'all know baseball's not my biggest. I never will say I'm a baseball expert. But anyways, again, thanks to Josh. Thanks to everybody that commented on that, and thanks for the YouTube comments. Still, positive and negative criticism, praise, whatever. I get a review or comment, I will read it here on the show. All right, we'll be back next week. This is the last episode of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast this week. Next week, we'll have another Sunbelt related guest from App State. Just got to hold off and wait on that one. Now, I haven't done one in a couple of weeks, but we will be releasing a new episode of Talking Wrestling with Phillip Jordan on Thursday, and this might be live. This might be a live episode. I am going to be joined by Blake Lovell from Wrestle Reaction. Check him out. He does some wrestling stuff with Sports Illustrated. I know you've heard the name before. We're talking college basketball and some NFL with Blake, but we're going to jump in wrestling. Usually when I've had Blake on to talk other sports on this show, at the end, I would throw him a wrestling question. Well, we're just going to go wrestling. SummerSlam preview. Now, we're not going to preview every match. I'm not going to do that with Blake. We're going to hit the high points on it. Obviously, the big matches, the main events is not main events. So, me and Blake Lovell will go over SummerSlam, preview SummerSlam for this weekend there in New York. And I put this on social media, and I'm going to say it here. I am starting an Auburn-focused podcast. Let's just let the cat out of the bag. I'm an Auburn fan or Eagle. Let's just do it. You know, people who know me know this about me. I do love my Troy Trojans wearing the hat. But anyways, I'm starting an Auburn-focused podcast. Right now, the plan is once a week, at least until the season. Maybe we'll do 2 a week during the season of football, or not just a football podcast. It will be football and basketball, Auburn football and basketball. But we're going to be getting that going at the end of the week. I'm going to do a solo pod with practice just starting it for Auburn. Maybe Thursday during a lunchtime period, I will record that. Perhaps do that one live too as well. We'll just see how that goes. And then next week, we'll jump into some more stuff. I will have guests on the show, but I also will go live and just want to chat with Auburn fans. That's one thing with the show. I want it to be interactive. When I'm doing this show and there's multiple different sports we're talking about, I can go live, but maybe there's not that same interaction. Well, Auburn focused, I can do that. I feel like I can be a little bit more interactive. Hopefully some Auburn fans will jump on and talk on the show, post comments where I can respond to those. That's going to be planned. But at least until we get to the season, till football season, I think maybe we'll just do one, and then we'll jump into 2 a week. Because something I want to do with this show too, early in the week, obviously recap the Auburn game, whatever happens there. Maybe do some live reactions after some games as well. See how that goes. Again, interact with Auburn fans. But then also do a preview for the upcoming game of the opponent and have somebody that covers the opponent on the show and kind of chat with them. Then I'll probably close up, give my thoughts. So that's kind of where I'm looking with the Auburn Breakdown will be the name of the podcast. Also, in the coming weeks, there's going to be another pod I'm going to release. So there's a lot of podcast news for me, and we'll just see if I do not overwork myself as I've been known to do. I'm going to do a Packers podcast with the same format. Recap a game, preview opponent. We'll see how that goes as well. I just merged all that. Make that just be one episode. Just have everything in there together. So everything is still being discussed and looked at with those two pods. And I will be returning to the high school football podcast this weekend as well, getting ready for the high school football season since August is upon us. So a lot of podcast stuff. I'll just go ahead and say it here. If anybody's wondering, I am no longer writing for Last Word on College Football. I stepped down from that this past weekend. I just want to say this as I go off the air on this show, the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I want to thank, Mike Laval. Brandon Eisman really turned me on to Last Word on College Football. He was writing for them covering LSU back in 2018. He connected me to Mike, and then we got the ball rolling. And then Tony, Saracusa, Kate, Maggie, Jason Ray, that another editor there. Lauren as well. So many editors and so many great teammates there at Last One College Football. It was a tough decision to leave just with stuff going on with me. I decided to step back, step away from what I was doing there. But I cherish my time there, and I will hope to reach out to those guys over there that I made friends with, and have them here on this show and on the Auburn show, because we got to do some crossovers. We got to do some behind enemy lines with some of them guys and chat with them. So that's something I plan on doing here in the future. But anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. I've gone too long. I've rambled too much I've really pulled the curtain back way too much here at the end of the show, but it is what it is. Remember, you can follow me on social media at P Jordan SEC. The podcast available on all your favorite podcast platforms, and leave a review or comment on YouTube, and I'll read those as well. All right. Until next time. Bye-bye.